The other most important resource that I use is my friend Google. You also have that friend. We have a common friend, and his name is Google. So use him. I like Google. Well, I like Google. That's it. But anyway, I use Google for a lot of things, and you can listen for signals on Google in the most efficient manner that you can imagine. You can check out news articles, you can find out what's happening in industry. So what I did for just to show you an example of how I'm looking and how do I actually come up with these suburbs as potential growth suburbs um, for Victoria. All I did was I just went and Googled growth potential for Victorian suburbs, and you'll get all these links and you can click them. But I've actually already got them open here. And this side, all I do is all I did was research for growth potential in Victorian suburbs, and you could put it in any different form that you want, or hottest suburbs in Melbourne, or whatever you want to do. And these sites came up, and all I've done is I've actually opened them all across here. So we'll go tab by tab. Um, a news.com.au website came up. It's a very good site. I've actually got some details about their property section in the resource guide, and you should be able to have a look at it and visit that page, and I'll show you what I do with it. Now this is 1 year ago. This is April 23rd, 2013. So you've got to remember that all the details that you're actually looking for, or the signals that you're trying to listen to, make sure that they are fairly current. Now, about a year ago, they talked about Victoria is the nation most likely to see property values double, according to the report. That's a very good news for me. I like that news. And then at the time they were talking about Williams Landing, Derrimut, Travancore, and I know about Williams Landing because they had a new town center. They had a new train station opened last year in April, so that's what they were doing. So it's fairly old. Apart from this good news that I'm in a state where the property prices are going to double, I don't really get much out of this article. So you can actually read through it, and always, the first thing I ever do on any article that I land, I'll look at the page and look at what date that article was written on. If this was 2012, I wouldn't even look at it. I'll move forward. Um, and at the same time, if this was 2012 and they predicted some suburbs, I'd actually go back and have a look at those suburbs and try and find out what they were when they predicted it and what are they right now. So to find out whether or not whatever this guy, whoever wrote this story, had any weightage to what he was saying. Smart Property Investor just found this website, came as one of the links from here. Now this is September 2013, so which is not that old, but 6-7 months ago, which is pretty good. I would want to read what they have to say. Now they say Footscray as one of the had a 54% share of renting household, and they show that there was a 93% increase from 2003 to 2013. They talk about high proportion of renters in a suburb can improve a property's potential for capital growth, and all those things. So that's an article. I get some details out of it. Again, another article. This is again on news.com.au. Now they're talking about national hotspots in 2014. I would want to see what are they talking about. Visit this site hotspotting.com.au. It's a site run by Terry Ryder, who's this and here, and they sell some reports. These guys and Residex, they sell some reports that you can buy and see what they're saying. But I've actually never ever been able to look at those reports and say, yeah, that's where I'm going, because I've just never been able to even have those reports guide my research. Yes, those reports are good, and it's really good for bigger developments where it's going to be huge, but we're doing 4 townhouses, 6 townhouses, 8 townhouses, maybe 14 apartments, maybe 17 apartments, but nothing major. So if you can afford them and you can afford to have them, get them. They're always good to have. But if you can't, it's not a deal breaker. So what they've done in this article is where to buy in Sydney. They've given their hot tips. You go down where to buy in Melbourne. They spoke about Frankston, Epping, Bayside. These were Ryder's pick, which is Terry Ryder, and they've given their picks for Brisbane. And over here, if you scroll down, they've given a pick for different states. So you can have a look at this article, which is not that old. Um, yeah, well, it's only 4 months old. It would be a good idea for you to actually pick up your state, um, put these suburbs and track them. Track them for about 6 months or track them for about a year. Have a look at them. I'll show you what are the stats that I look at. Have a look at them. Put those stats down, and I'll show you how you can detect all the changes that are happening to a website and organize it and track it for a year and see whether or not they actually worked. And next year, maybe if what Terry says or what Peter says would be good, then maybe buy their report next year and see what happens. I've never done that, but I'll keep my eye on Cobar, Flemington, Footscray. I'll look into them. This is another website that I frequent a lot, which is called propertyobserver.com.au. Now they talk about shortage, but look at this. This is 4th of September 2012, so this is almost 2 years old. Well, a year and a half old almost. So that's just I just think that this is a filler content. Um, I don't give it a lot of weightage, but I love this site because this site has a lot of resources that I look at. I read a lot on this site. This is like a property news site, so that's a good site. If you look at this site, you've got lowest growth in eastern suburbs. They talk about Melbourne's eastern suburbs will accommodate just half the population increase. So this is again a good news, which basically means the price in in the eastern suburbs is going to go up. And there's not a lot of development that has happened. I mean, there is development happening, but not as much as it has happened on the other side of Melbourne. So eastern suburbs would be a good place to keep an eye on. Again, they talk about Melbourne could grow by 2.5 million people by 2050, which is again a very good news for me. October 2013, which is again almost 6 months old, but it would be a good idea to keep an eye on what they're saying and track it. Now, more than 2 dozen Melbourne urban renewal sites have been identified. Now, this word here, urban renewal sites, is very important, and I'll show you why later on. But in your notebook, write down urban renewal sites, and I'll show you what to do with it later on. Now, they've identified Hampton Station, Hyatt, Flemington New Market Precinct, and Essendon Station. I'm just gonna copy that and I'm gonna put it in my notes here, and you'll see those notes, so don't worry about them. You'll see these notes later on, and you'll get it as part of the course. So this is what we found out from from just by doing a preliminary research and finding out what's happening. Again, this came out on 9th of October 2013. That's probably when the Melbourne 2050 plan came out, which is about town planning, where they froze the urban growth boundary, so that Melbourne doesn't expand anymore, and whatever we've got, that means they're going to start increasing. They're going to push higher density developments, or they're going to start maximizing whatever land that we've already got, um, uh, to make the best use of resources. Economic infrastructure, I'll get into these details of the government websites later on. So these are some sites that I actually found just by googling growth potential in Victorian suburbs. You could also try property hot spots in Melbourne. So Google already suggests you that you can search these three. This is what people are searching. So again, news.com.au comes up. The same article pops up. We've got Melbourne in the housing market spotlight, all these things. So if you've got a try it on different try this research. Don't get into a lot of details, but search for it, listen for signals, take your notes, write down the suburbs, and I'll tell you what to do with these suburbs later on. And that's where I'm going with this. I'm just shortlisting some suburbs by just doing a preliminary search on Google.